Okay, this is Unit 1, Lesson 7, adding unlike fractions. So when we don't have that common denominator, we'll talk about finding it, renaming, or finding equivalent fractions to be able to then work with them with that common denominator. Okay, so some sample problems to get us started with. Again, we're just going to work towards finding those common denominators. So here we've got 1/3 plus 1/2. We need to find a common denominator in order to work through this. So we're going to take 3 and 2 and make them equivalent, or the denominator 3 and 2 make them equivalent fractions. So I know I can multiply 3 times 2 to get 6. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator, so I'm going to multiply that by 2. So 2/6 is the same thing as 1/3. I'm going to multiply the 2 by 3 to get 6 again. Multiply the numerator by 3 as well, so 3/6, which is equal to 1/2. Now I can add 2/6 plus 3/6 and get 5/6. Okay, so I have to have that common denominator in order to move on with that. Let's take a look at the next one. Because it's tenths and fifths, I don't have to actually change them both. Before I had to change them both on that previous problem. I had to find a common denominator on both. But because 5 will go into 10, I can just multiply 5 times 2, which means I need to do the same thing to my numerator, 1 times 2. So I get 2/10. Now I can add 7/10 and 2/10 to get 9/10. Okay. I can also look at simplifying if that's necessary. It looks like these ones aren't going to work that way. I'm going to have to take them up to 18. A lot of this is just knowing my basic facts. So I'm going to multiply 9 times 2 and 2 times 2. I get my common denominator of 18. 2 times 2, 4. Okay. 6 times 3, 1 times 3. Okay. Is 3/18. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 4/18 plus 3/18. I leave my denominator alone. I don't mess with my denominator when I'm adding. As long as I've got that common denominator, then I just move across. So 4 plus 3, so 7/18. Okay, this one looks even larger. I'm going to just change 4 to 30 seconds. Okay, so we're going to take that 1/4 and we're going to multiply that by 8. 8 again, numerator and denominator following my rule. I get 8 30 seconds. So now I can add 8 plus 5. Get 13 30 seconds. Okay, so once you find your common denominator, all you're doing is adding your numerators. So 6 and 3 have 6 in common, so I'm going to multiply that 3 times 2. I get 4/6. 4/6 plus 1/6 is 5/6. Okay. Anytime I look at something like this where I've got 11 and 2, if all else fails in finding my common denominators, remember I can multiply the 2 times each other. So I'm going to take 11, I'm going to multiply it by 2 to get 22. 10 20 seconds. And then I'm going to multiply the 2 by 11, again to get 20 seconds. 11 20 seconds. Okay, and then I can add those numbers. So if I can't come up with something that makes for a common denominator, factors they both have, then I can just go ahead and multiply the 2 denominators times each other, and that'll get me that common denominator. 4ths I'm going to turn into 16ths. Multiply by 4. Multiply by 4, so I get 12/16 plus 3/16 equals 15/16. Okay. This one goes back to like that 2 and 11. 7 and 3, they don't have anything in common other than multiplying them times each other. So I'm going to take 7, multiply it by 3, 3, multiply it by 7, get my common denominator of 21. Okay, so I have 7/21 plus 9 21sts. So when I work this out, I've got 9 21sts plus 7 21sts. Okay, and then when I add them, I just add straight across, so I get 16 over 21, 16 21sts. Okay. Again, finding the common denominator. Why don't you guys pause the video and try out number 9 on your own. Come back, check your answer. Okay, welcome back. You guys should have found that 24 is your common denominator. Both 12 and 8 will go into 24. When you add up your numerators, 19 24ths. Okay. Let's try a couple story problems. Of the people who attended school play, 5/12ths were students, 1/8 were teachers. What fraction of the total audience were students or teachers? Students or teachers is indicating that we're going to add these two. So we're going to take 5/12ths and we're going to add 1/8. But the problem is we can't just add those straight away. We have to find that common denominator. Much like number 9, 24 is our common denominator. So we're going to multiply, remember, numerator and denominator times the same number in order to get a common denominator. So I've got 10 24ths and 3 24ths. Multiplying this one by 3 and by 3. Okay, so now I can do 10 24ths plus 3 24ths. 10 plus 3 is 13, so 13 24ths is how many of the audience were students or teachers. Maria bought 2/3 yards of yellow ribbon and 1/4 yard of blue ribbon. How many yards of ribbon did she buy altogether? So we're going to add 2/3 plus 1/4. Okay, got to find that common denominator. It's 12ths, which is actually multiplying those two numbers times each other. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12, so 8 12ths. Again, multiply times 3. Numerator and denominator, 3 12ths. So now I'm adding 8 12ths plus 3 12ths. Remember, all I have to do is add straight across once I have that common denominator, so I get 11 12ths. And then I need to label my units, 11 12ths of a yard. Okay, she's got 11 12ths of a yard. For breakfast, Oliver drank 5/16 of a pitcher of juice. His brother Joey drank 3/8 of the pitcher of juice. What fraction did they drink together? Again, find that common denominator. 16ths is my common denominator. If I know my multiples of 8, I know that 8 times 2 is 16. So I'm going to take that 3/8 and I'm going to convert it to 16ths by multiplying my numerator and my denominator by 2. So I get 6 16ths. And now I can add 5 16ths plus 6 16ths, and I get 11 16ths. Okay, that's the fraction of the pitcher they drank. A recipe that calls for 1/3 cup of brown sugar and 3/4 cup of white sugar. How much sugar altogether? Why don't you guys pause the video and work this one out? We've got 1/3 plus 3/4. Okay, pause, find that common denominator, and then come back and check your answer. Okay. Welcome back. If you guys figured this out, you multiply and get 12 as my common denominator. Okay, 9 12ths, and we're going to take the third, we're going to multiply that by 4. We're going to get 4 12ths. Okay, so what then I end up with is 13 12ths. Now that answer is correct, but the problem with it is it's an improper fraction. So I want to convert this improper fraction. If you haven't done that yet, pause the video again, convert your improper fraction to a mixed number. Okay, welcome back. If you were coming back to me, 13 12ths. I can pull 1 whole out of there because 12 12ths equals 1 whole. So I'm going to take 12 12ths, I'm going to make it 1 whole. What's left over is 1 12th and of cups. All right, guys, we'll see you in class to practice adding and fractions with non-common denominators.